Before this story reaches fathers, documents, hospitals, and rewritten timelines, it begins with one woman, Samantha Markle. For years, she was dismissed, pushed aside, painted as the jealous sister with something to gain, the bitter half-sibling who couldn't handle Meghan's success, the family embarrassment that the palace wished would just disappear. But Samantha wasn't chasing attention. She was chasing accuracy. She was the first person to say, something isn't right about Meghan's age. And unlike rumors that swirl online, unlike conspiracy theories that lack evidence, Samantha's warnings came with the kind of certainty only a sibling can have. She didn't shout. She didn't speculate. She simply stated facts. Dates. Memories. Family moments that couldn't be twisted or polished for cameras. She was the one who pointed directly at the timeline and said, "Look closer. None of this adds up." For years, her voice was ignored, dismissed as family drama, written off as jealousy. But now, everything she said is resurfacing, piece by piece, matching evidence the world was never supposed to notice. And when Thomas Markle, her own father, later stepped forward and confirmed that every detail Samantha had shared was true, the ground beneath Meghan's carefully protected image began to shake. Tonight, we're diving into the most disturbing mystery of the entire Sussex saga. Not the family drama, not the palace conflicts, but something far more fundamental. Meghan Markle's age. And once you see the evidence, the magazine pages frozen in time, the impossible timelines, the medical contradictions, the family testimony, you won't be able to unsee it. Because this isn't about a woman lying about her age to feel younger. This is about a carefully constructed identity that, when examined closely, reveals cracks that expose an entirely different life story. A story where Meghan wasn't a millennial actress breaking into Hollywood in her 20s, but a woman nearly 30, desperately trying to break into a youth-obsessed industry by erasing 6 years from her biography. A story where her geriatric pregnancies at 37 might have actually been high-risk pregnancies at 42 or 43. A story where every milestone, every timeline, every detail we've been told might be built on a foundation that doesn't exist. Samantha didn't create this mystery. She simply refused to let it stay hidden. She was the first domino, the first crack in the royal mirror. The first person brave enough to say out loud what the documents would later reveal. And once she spoke, the truth had nowhere left to hide. Let's begin with the woman who saw through it all from the very beginning. Samantha Markle has never told me a lie. That's what Thomas Markle said when asked about his eldest daughter's claims. Not she exaggerates. Not she's bitter. But she has never told me a lie. Every single thing that she has said about Meghan has checked out factually. Think about that statement for a moment. A father choosing between 2 daughters. One a duchess married to a prince. The other dismissed by the world as jealous and irrelevant. And he sides with the one the world calls a liar. Why would he do that unless he knew something the rest of us don't? Let me take you back to when Samantha first started raising questions about Meghan's age. This wasn't after Meghan became famous. This wasn't after the royal wedding. This was years earlier, when Meghan was still a struggling actress on a cable TV show most people had never heard of. Samantha would mention in interviews, almost casually, that something about Meghan's official biography didn't match her memories. She'd reference family events, graduations, birthdays, milestones, and the dates Meghan was publicly claiming didn't align with what Samantha remembered being present for. At first, nobody paid attention. Why would they? This was family gossip. Sisters disagreeing about childhood memories. But Samantha kept pressing. She didn't escalate. She didn't get louder. She just kept calmly pointing at specific dates and saying, "This doesn't add up." Now, here's what you need to understand about sibling testimony. Siblings know things that even parents might not remember clearly. Parents might forget exactly what year a child graduated high school. But siblings? Siblings remember because they were there. They were in the same schools, the same social circles, experiencing the same timeline. If your sister suddenly claims to be 6 years younger than you remember, you notice. Immediately. And that's exactly what Samantha claimed was happening. that Meghan had somehow adjusted her age, and everyone just accepted the new version without questioning it. The mainstream media ignored her. Royal reporters dismissed her. Even people who disliked Meghan wrote Samantha off as a bitter family member trying to profit from her sister's fame. But then Thomas Markle confirmed it. The father who had walked Meghan down the aisle. The man who had every reason to protect his famous daughter's image. He looked at cameras and said Samantha was telling the truth. I love both my daughters. I'm not happy with what one of my daughters is doing. She's telling lies. That's not ambiguous. That's not vague. That's a father accusing his Duchess daughter of lying about fundamental facts of her life. And once Thomas confirmed Samantha's claims, people started looking closer. Started checking dates. Started finding documents that should have been impossible if Meghan's official age was accurate. Documents like a magazine page from March 1997 that would change everything. Comment below. Do you believe Samantha Markle? Or do you think she's just a bitter sibling trying to tear down her successful sister? When we come back, we're examining the smoking gun. A single page in a magazine that, if accurate, proves Meghan Markle lied about her age by 6 years. And we're going to do the math together so you can see for yourself why this matters. Stay with us. March 1997. Back then, teenagers flipped through 17 magazine the way kids today scroll through TikTok. Looking for inspiration. Stories. A glimpse into the world they hoped to join one day. Deep inside that issue on page 90 lies a small printed list. Nothing flashy. Nothing bold. Just names and ages of young women trying to be seen. And there, almost hidden, were 2 words. Meghan Markle, age 21. Not 15. Not even close. 21. Let's do the math together, because this is where the entire story either holds up or completely falls apart. That's not a small typo. That's not someone accidentally writing 21 instead of 15. That's a 6-year difference. Now, some people try to dismiss this by saying, maybe it's a printing error. Maybe they got the ages wrong for multiple people in that list. But here's the problem. This magazine exists far away from royalty, PR teams, or biography editors. It was written before anyone cared about Meghan Markle's age. Before anyone had a reason to adjust anything. There was no incentive to lie. No fame to protect. No brand to manage. This was just a list of aspiring models and actresses, including their self-reported ages. So if the magazine is accurate, and Meghan was actually 21 in March 1997, let's reverse the math. Not 44. Not a millennial. But a woman approaching 50 who has spent decades claiming to be 6 years younger. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but why does this matter? Lots of actresses lie about their age. It's Hollywood. Who cares? And that's a fair question. Except for one thing. Meghan didn't just lie to get acting roles. She maintained this lie after becoming a duchess. After marrying into the British royal family, where lineage, documentation, and accuracy matter more than anywhere else on Earth. She maintained this lie through pregnancies that, if she's actually 6 years older, would have been significantly more high risk than publicly stated. She maintained this lie while her father and sister were telling anyone who would listen that the official story was false. And that's when it stops being a harmless Hollywood fib and becomes something far more serious. Let me show you why this matters medically. Because once you understand the implications for her pregnancies, you'll realize this isn't just about vanity. It's about credibility, about trust, about whether anything Meghan has told the public can be believed. Let's look at the pregnancy timeline. And prepare yourself, because the math here becomes impossible. Comment below. Have you ever lied about your age? And if you have, did you maintain that lie after it started affecting major life decisions? When we come back, we're diving into the pregnancy puzzle. Because if Meghan was actually 42 or 43 when pregnant with Archie, instead of 37, the entire birth story Harry described becomes medically impossible. Stay with us. Age isn't just a number in royal life. It's a critical piece of the story, especially when pregnancies enter the picture. By the time Meghan and Prince Harry announced they were expecting Archie, the world celebrated a fairy tale unfolding in real time. Smiling photos, glowing appearances, a carefully controlled narrative of joy and new beginnings. But here's where the timeline becomes more than confusing. It becomes medically important. Now, why does this matter? Because doctors treat pregnancies very differently when the mother is over 35. That's when you enter what's clinically called geriatric pregnancy or advanced maternal age. But the real medical protocols change dramatically at age 40. That's when monitoring intensifies, when risk assessments become mandatory, when hospital procedures become non-negotiable. If Meghan was 37, she was already in advanced maternal age. High risk, requiring additional monitoring. But if she was actually 42 or 43, she wasn't just high risk. She was in the highest risk category for first-time mothers. And here's where Harry's memoir creates an impossible situation. In Spare, Harry described Archie's birth as serene, calm, almost spa-like. Let me walk you through why this timeline is medically impossible, regardless of which age you believe. So the claim is that everything, labor, delivery, 2 epidurals, recovery, paperwork, discharge, happened in approximately 1 hour, leaving 1 hour for the drive home. Delivery, variable, but typically 30 minutes to 2 hours for first-time mothers. Harry's described timeline, 2 hours total. Do you see the problem? Even if Meghan was 37, this timeline is impossible. The drive alone takes an hour. That leaves 1 hour for everything else. 1 hour to deliver a baby, receive 2 epidurals, recover enough to walk, pass all medical checks, complete discharge paperwork, and leave the hospital. It cannot happen. But if Meghan was actually 42 or 43, the timeline becomes even more impossible. Because at that age, sources say Meghan showed early signs of preeclampsia during pregnancy, dangerously high blood pressure that makes monitoring even more crucial. If that reading is accurate, Meghan would have been in severe preeclampsia. She wouldn't have been discharged in 2 hours. She would have been kept for 24 to 48 hours minimum, possibly longer. So we have 3 options. The magazine from 1997 is wrong. Meghan really is 44, and Harry's birth story is still medically impossible. The magazine is correct. Meghan is actually 49 or 50, which makes the birth story even more impossible. The birth story we were told is not what actually happened. Comment below. Which option do you think is most likely? Or is there a 4th option I'm missing? When we come back, we're examining what happens when you place all these pieces together. The magazine page, the family testimony, the impossible medical timeline. And we're asking the question nobody wants to answer. Was Meghan's entire public persona built on a rewritten timeline? Stay with us. This version is everywhere. Repeated so consistently that it feels untouchable. Permanent. As if stamped into stone. And here is where this expose turns into something bigger than just age discrepancy. If one of these birth years is wrong, then which timeline has been constructed around the false one? Which details were added to support it? Which parts were removed? And more importantly, why was the world never shown the pencil marks beneath the ink? Let me show you what changes if the pencil version is accurate. Hollywood career reframed. Ink version. Meghan was a fresh-faced 20-something breaking into Hollywood, competing with other young actresses. Pencil version. Meghan was pushing 30, desperately trying to break into a youth-obsessed industry by pretending to be younger than her competition. This explains why she never broke through to major roles. Not because she lacked talent necessarily, but because she was competing in the wrong age category. She was auditioning against women actually in their 20s while claiming to be their peer. Royal courtship reframed. Ink version. A 35-year-old woman meets a 32-year-old prince. Close enough in age. Modern. Relatable. Pencil version. A 40-year-old woman meets a 32-year-old prince. Now she's 8 years older, not 3. Now the dynamic shifts. Now questions arise about why she was so eager to lock down a younger prince quickly. Pregnancy story reframed. Ink version. Advanced maternal age, 37, but not unusual for modern professional women. 2 healthy pregnancies. Pencil version, extremely high-risk pregnancies, 42 to 43, then 44 to 45. That would require intensive medical intervention and make the described birth scenarios literally impossible. Family estrangement reframed. Inc. version, Meghan cut off her family because they were toxic, jealous, seeking attention. Pencil version, Meghan cut off the family members who knew her real age and might expose the lie. See how everything shifts? It's not just about a number. It's about the entire narrative changing based on which number is accurate. And here's what makes this particularly disturbing. If the pencil version is true, then Meghan maintained this lie through her Hollywood career, her relationship with Harry, her entry into the royal family, her pregnancies, her public advocacy work, her interviews and memoir. At what point does a lie become so embedded in your public persona that you can never admit it? Let's compile the evidence on both sides. Evidence supporting Inc. version, 1981 birth year official royal documentation. Public biographies. Media reports from 2016 onward. Passport and legal documents, presumably. Evidence supporting pencil version, 1975-76 birth year 1997, 17 magazine page. Age 21, not 15. Father's confirmation of sister's claims. Sister's specific memories of family timelines. Medical impossibilities in birth stories at stated age. Career trajectory that makes more sense for older actress. Urgency to marry quickly when meeting Harry. Now, here's the critical question. Which evidence is more reliable? Official documents can be changed. Biographies can be written to match desired narratives. Media reports can repeat false information if nobody challenges it. But a magazine printed in 1997, before Meghan was famous, before anyone cared about her age, before there was any reason to lie, that's frozen in time. That can't be retroactively edited. A father confirming his daughter's testimony, even though it damages his other daughter's reputation, that carries weight. Medical impossibilities that any doctor can verify, those can't be explained away. Comment below. If you had to decide a legal case based on this evidence, which version would you believe? The official documents or the contemporaneous magazine page? When we come back, we're examining the final piece of this puzzle. Because the age question connects to another mystery that has never been fully resolved. Were those pregnancies real? And if the age was hidden, what else was hidden? Stay with us. This identity puzzle forces us to look at the next part of her story, one that depends almost entirely on age, medical history, and timing. The pregnancies. And that's where the cracks get even deeper. Now, I want to be very clear about something before we continue. Questioning pregnancy details is sensitive territory. Women have every right to privacy about their medical decisions. But when someone becomes a public figure, marries into an institution built on lineage and succession, and presents a story that contradicts medical reality, questions become legitimate. Not invasive, not cruel, but legitimate. Let's walk through what makes the pregnancy story suspicious, regardless of Meghan's real age. Now, let's add the age question to this analysis. If Meghan was actually 42 to 43 with Archie and 44 to 45 with Lilibet, the medical realities become even more pronounced. Medical facts for women 42 plus. Fertility drops dramatically, less than 5% chance of natural conception. Miscarriage rate exceeds 50%. Genetic abnormality risks increase significantly. IVF success rates drop below 10%. Twin pregnancies become more common naturally. Pregnancies require intensive medical intervention. And yet, Meghan allegedly conceived naturally and easily both times. Had completely smooth pregnancies, no complications mentioned. Delivered quickly and simply. Required minimal medical intervention. Recovered immediately. Does that sound like the typical experience for a first-time mother at 42? Let me ask you something. Do you know any women who had their first baby at 42 or later? If you do, ask them about their experience. Ask them if it was easy to conceive. A smooth pregnancy with no complications. A quick delivery. An immediate recovery. I'm willing to bet most will laugh at that description because it's so far from reality. So, if the pregnancies happened differently than described, and the age was 6 years older than claimed, what actually happened? There are several possibilities. Surrogate was used for medical reasons, legitimate, but Meghan chose to hide this to maintain the fairy tale narrative. The pregnancies were entirely fabricated to secure the royal bloodline connection and potential succession claims. The pregnancies were real but required so much medical intervention, IVF, extensive monitoring, high-risk protocols, that admitting the truth would expose the age lie. Some combination of the above, with different methods for each pregnancy. Now, I don't know which theory is accurate. Nobody outside Meghan's inner circle does. But what we do know is this. The story we were told doesn't match the medical evidence. The timelines don't work. The physical evidence has inconsistencies. And adding 6 years to her age makes the official story even less believable. So we're left with a choice. Either believe that Meghan is a medical miracle who defied every statistic, or accept that the story was crafted to hide uncomfortable truths. Comment below, what do you think really happened? Do you believe the pregnancy stories as told? Or do you think there's more to the story than we've been allowed to know? When we come back, we're wrapping this all together. The magazine page, the family testimony, the medical impossibilities, the age discrepancy. And we're asking the most important question. If this much was rewritten, what else in Meghan's story can we actually trust? Stay with us. By now, the pieces lie on the table. A father's quiet confession. She's telling lies. A magazine page frozen in time. Meghan Markle, age 21 in March 1997. Two timelines that cannot coexist. One that makes her 44, one that makes her 49 or 50. A birth story wrapped in calm when the medical facts point to chaos. None of these details scream. None of them hit you over the head. They just sit there, quiet, stubborn, refusing to disappear. And when you step back, the picture they form isn't loud. It's unsettling. It begins to look like a life story that didn't simply unfold, but was managed, adjusted, refined, sharpened in ink, while the pencil marks underneath were carefully brushed away. Because once you see the contradictions in age, in milestones, in pregnancies and timelines, you realize something important. Fairy tales don't unravel this easily. Real stories do. Real stories have edges. Real stories have inconsistencies. Real stories have details that don't match no matter how much polish you apply. And in Meghan Markle's story, those edges are beginning to tear through the surface. So, what can we actually trust about Meghan's public persona? Let's be honest. If the age is fabricated, if the pregnancy stories don't hold up medically, if her own father confirms she's lying about basic biographical facts, what isn't fabricated? What we know for certain. A magazine from 1997 says she was 21, not 15. Medical timelines for her births are impossible as described. Her father and sister claim she lied about her age. She cut off both family members who publicly questioned the timeline. 6 years were possibly erased from her biography. She maintained this through royal marriage and motherhood. What this means? Her Hollywood career was built on false pretenses. Her royal courtship involved significant age deception. Her pregnancy stories have major credibility issues. Her public advocacy was based on a manufactured identity. Her treatment of family members who knew the truth becomes more sinister. Maybe that's why Thomas Markle finally spoke. Maybe that's why the magazine page matters. Maybe that's why the birth story feels shaped instead of lived. Because behind the royal glow, behind the palace announcements, behind the elegant photographs, there lies a quieter truth. A timeline rewritten, a narrative adjusted, a story rebuilt to fit the moment instead of the reality. And the world accepted it. Until now. Because once you tilt the page toward the light, you can see the pencil marks underneath. The erased dates. The strained timelines. The moments that no longer fit. Samantha Markle didn't create this mystery. She simply refused to let it stay hidden. For years, she was called jealous, bitter, attention-seeking. But she kept repeating the same facts, the same dates, the same impossibilities. And she was right. Every major claim she made has evidence supporting it. White heavy checkmark Meghan's age doesn't match family memories. Confirmed by magazine White heavy checkmark the official timeline has inconsistencies. Confirmed by medical analysis. White heavy checkmark something is deeply wrong with the pregnancy stories. Confirmed by impossible timelines. White heavy checkmark Meghan is lying about fundamental biographical facts. Confirmed by her father. Samantha was the first crack in the royal mirror. The first person brave enough to say out loud what the documents would later reveal. And once she spoke, the truth had nowhere left to hide. This isn't the end of the tale. It's the moment the curtain finally moves, revealing that behind the royal illusion stands a much deeper mystery, one the world has only just begun to notice. And as more pieces fall into place, as more truths slip through the cracks, one question grows louder. If the age, the birth, and the identity were rewritten, what else was rewritten too? The story isn't over. It's only starting to reveal itself. What do you think? Is Meghan Markle really 49 or 50 years old? Did she lie about her age to advance her career and secure a royal marriage? Are the pregnancy stories real or manufactured? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like this video if you want more investigations into the Sussex mysteries. And subscribe because we're not done uncovering the truth. Samantha Markle was dismissed for years. But she was right. And if she was right about this, what else is she right about? Until next time, remember, sometimes the family members dismissed as crazy are actually the only ones brave enough to tell the truth.